Hello, Malaysians. My name is Razsyarizzand. I am a postgraduate student from University Malaysia. I am currently doing my master's degree in social anthropology. So thank you very much, Professor Tajuddin, for inviting me for the second time. So today we are going to be talking about one of the most discussed issue in the media nationwide, and that is about security and schools. So Professor Tajuddin, today, I would like to talk about the issue of bullies, which is broadly discussed nationwide. I've said that already. So, over the past several months, we have seen multiple cases of bullies. And most tragically, within the first 2 weeks of this month, within the first 2 weeks of October, there have already been at least four cases that had occurred within the school domain. Now, the prevalence of these cases is highly alarming. One of the most recent case in particular was extremely baffling given how a school student can casually walk around the school environment carrying a large size weapon, which went undetected by the school and eventually led to the murder of a 16-year-old student. So, Professor Tajuddin, I'm curious to get your opinion on this, your thoughts on this. What do you think is going on here? Why is this happening? Why are we seeing a surge of cases in schools pertaining to bullies, rape, murder, sexual assault? Can we say that this is a failure of disciplinarians and teachers, as many people seem to think? What do you think about this?
Recently, we have the Secretary of State, I think, saying that it is not only the school that is the problem, it is the society. And on the one side, we have netizens or citizens saying it's a school fault. On the other side, we have correctly, in fact, that it is a societal issue. Okay, so for instance, like when we talk about the murder of the girl, I mean, we don't have a tradition of people carrying weapons in school. I've never heard of it. I've never heard gangsters fighting in school. Bullying, yes, group of people, boys, and bullying one person. That one is sadly to be kind of normal. And you must remember there are about 10,000 schools. Okay, so some people look at it, well, there's a lot, but then there's so many schools. Here we see that my concern here is that we have not discussed about the societal problems, but we are also correctly saying that it is a school problem, right? Now we'll talk about the disciplinary issue when you talk about caning, okay? But from my perspective, I think what we are ignoring is the change in our society in terms of the way we live. For instance, let's say parents are very concerned only about marks and doing good in exams, but like I know Ibrahim says, what about empathy? What about respect for others? These are aspects which I don't really find anywhere in our education at all. It should have been in religion, but I don't think religion really teaches you to love others, only your own kind, your own faith. And moral studies, I don't know what they do there. And certainly, I don't know also who are the teachers there. Maybe they are not expert teachers who actually knows how to teach, but just anybody lah, what they call tangkap muat, and things like that. So I would say that number one, if you look at our religious institution, what is being said in the media, the ustaz, things like that, you can see very well the division in our societies where the ustaz thinking that they are talking about their own religion. I'm using Islam because I don't know other religions. So other religion, somebody else have to look at that. But I'm being told that it's about sama saja lah, by some of my Christian friends and Buddhists and things like that, Hindus also. My short answer here is that it is the failure of our society in general, but the fact remains it happened in school. Now, barring the weapon thing, I have already said in bullying cases, you could actually do simple things to actually safeguard. But you have that in the last question, what is the safe school? And I will explain that again later on.
Okay, so as far as I understand, Professor Tajuddin, you're saying that there is some sort of a change of culture, maybe the way the children are being brought up. But nevertheless, this is happening in the school, and the school is very much responsible for what is happening.
So,
So this brings me to my second question then, which is I'm very curious to gain your perspective on this about the implementation of a stricter punishment-based system in school. So there seem to be a broad public perception that reintroducing caning would effectively address disciplinary problems. And some people have also suggested that parents or guardians should not at all be allowed to challenge the methods that are used by the teachers in managing disciplinary matters among the students. My question is, would you agree to any of this? Would any of these proposals make any difference? So number one, should caning be reintroduced in schools? And number two, would you advocate for the prohibition of parental involvement in disciplinary methods?
I'll give you my short answer. I disagree with both of them very clearly and very adamantly. And I think, and I would like to say that anybody who suggests this either doesn't have children, never raised children, or they themselves, well, don't like to use the word stupid, but really ignorant of what raising a child is now. Let me just relate to how I raise my children. Not to say that I'm a model father and all that, but in raising my children, I have my father, my own father, who's a policeman. Okay, and supposedly a policeman is supposed to be very hard. I've had friends who said they were beaten by their fathers using the belt, okay, using a branch. And we can also look at the story where he was caned by his father. Okay, so this is something that actually happens. Now, my father never use a cane, never use a belt, nothing. Right? Now, he does two things. I can remember my father being a policeman. If he just said something like that, then you know it's already a very traumatic experience. You know, if he just raise a little bit his voice, okay, he doesn't do that a lot because I think my mother has something to do with that. I think, but there's only a few times that I was being disciplined. Okay, I can remember only 3, 4 times. Anyway, imagine my whole childhood. Okay, my father disciplined me for what, 2 or 3 times? Imagine that. Some people get it every week. Okay, but I didn't. I was just disciplined. One time, I just didn't want to do something, and he just, you know, used his hand to slap me on my backside and things like that. And I was, you know, what do you call it? The kencing lah, or something like that. Okay. Now, when I was raising my children, okay, I use my voice, you know, something like that. Okay, that bothers me, and then they understand something. So that is the first level. The other level is to use I would use my hand. Now, sometimes I would be too free to use the hand, and I actually regret that. Usually, it happens to your first child, okay, because you're a new father. Then it doesn't really happen to the second, third, fourth, because you really don't want to do that anymore. Now, when you become a father, if you use a stick or use a belt, remember the stick or the cane or the belt doesn't have any feeling, but your hand has a lot of nerve fibers there, right? So when you slap your child on the appropriate places, you will also feel the pain. So the test here, I will give you advice, Ras. When you want to discipline your children, there are two things that you must remember. Number one, don't be angry. Never discipline your child when you are in anger. Never. But you can show anger. You can act it, but never when you are uncontrolled. Yeah? Because if you are uncontrolled, then you will regret some things that you would do. Number two, use your hand. Okay, and of course, choose certain body parts that you know. Make yourself remember, you know, something that here, fleshy parts and things like that. Okay, so that you don't hurt, and that it will also hurt your hand, so that it reminds you that, you know, there's a limit to it. But if you use a cane, there is no, I mean, there's no pain in the cane. When I was in school, I was caned both by the big rotan and by the, the famous, what do you call it, feather duster. That one is really painful. Okay. All right. So I was caned. I don't think you were caned, during your time. All right. So, but I was. Okay. Now, I can tell you, caning, what does that do? Some people are even proud that they are being caned, you jadi lagi kahak, orang kata. I don't really see that that caning is something, it's so simplistic. Okay, bring back caning just like that. No, I would disagree. I would not send my children to be caned, because I myself do not cane them and they grew up fine. Okay, so I would disagree 100% about caning. That's number one. Number two, with regards to the issue, what was it? Parents
Um,
not supposed to interfere.
Yes, parents should not interfere, because the moment parents interfere with the methods used by the teachers to manage disciplinary problems, it
Mm.
undermines the authority of disciplinarians. So
Mm.
then the argument is that it will cause a rise of issues and problems, given that the students in schools are not fearful of the punishment. So
Mm.
what do you think about that?
Well, it depends on the so-called punishment. If you are talking about caning and what we call corporal punishment, are you familiar with that term, corporal punishment? Now, corporal punishment means you can just slap and do things, send them out into the sun, okay, and let them stand. Do that, you could hurt the child. Do you know how long that they can stand? I've never really been sent out because I was naughty, but the whole class was being sent out when I was in Hualian school to sit in the sun, stand in the sun for, well, luckily it was a single period. Okay. But the sun in those days and the sun now is totally different. There's a rise of 2 degrees temperature, and that is already going to cause a lot. We had a case where there was a boy that was being sent out, an Indian boy, to stay out in the sun, and some serious thing happened to his health, very, very bad. So when you say that parents should not interfere, we need to know what kind of punishment. Okay, if standing in a corner, okay, or they have to write 100 times, it's fine. But if you are going to, do something which is what we call corporal punishment and all that, then definitely that is something that is not good. Okay. Now, if something serious where you think you need to have a really serious thing, you definitely have to bring the parents.
So yeah, I agree with you, Professor Tajuddin. I think I heard a lot about this proposal that canning should be reintroduced in schools, particularly by the
Mm.
older generation. So maybe I should follow up an additional question here. I think the idea behind the reintroduction of canning to be brought back in school is that there must be some sort of a way to instill fear within the students, because if there is no fear, then the students will be able to freely do anything they want.
Mm.
What I understand from the answers you have just given is that instilling fear within the student is not the way to discipline them. Can you clarify that?
Mm. Well, if I were to say, if some of the students are doing very difficult, and I would disagree with the idea of caning, because you don't know the limits, you don't know the mood, you can't control that. Okay, yes, it feels like you're going to, unless of course the student punch you, then there is something else, which also happened. That's a different thing when you have a very, older students and things like. But even then, okay, you're not supposed to be doing that. You're supposed to just, okay. So number one, if you will say that, okay, if you do that, then we will be calling your parents in, something like that, and then you'll be given some sort of demerit. And after, we will have to tell the parents that, look, if he still has some problems and after a certain demerit, then he will have to be removed from the school, and that is already devastating to the parent.
Okay, so I would like to hear your recommendation to the education minister later on. But first, if no caning, you say no to caning, what do you think about the implementation of a new subject that was announced by the education minister, particularly the character education? Now, many people are not impressed with this idea. They say, no way. They are saying that we already have Islamic education, we already have moral education, we have civic education, we have PIBG, we have counseling in schools. So, what's the point of having another character education? So what do you think about this? Do we really need character education in schools? Is that really necessary? And most importantly, Professor Tajuddin, based on your assessment, will the implementation of character education be the answer to resolving all these issues involving students' behavior, do you think? What is your comment?
Well, first of all, what is character and what is character education? Okay, I don't remember learning about such things that much unless you have somebody that you look up to, or you learn certain aspect of morals, what is right and what is wrong, and all that. So for me, I think the introduction of this new subject, I don't know what this subject is going to look like, but it goes back to the moral studies and the religious education. Okay, if religious education do not even teach the Muslim student to value other people, value, not live with, not tolerate, but to value. Some people say, how can you say that? We are Muslims, we must be. What are you talking about? The Prophet had to have how he valued his uncle who protected him, how he valued the king of Negus, how he valued the friendship with the Jews and the Christians in Medina who invited him. What are you talking about? We need to value others. Okay, that's number one. Number two, you also need to look very, very closely to this religious education, especially, and look at even what Dr. Mazli said. You don't teach empathy; you teach a lot of ritual. Okay, rituals and all these fikah things like how you divide your harta. You can do that very easily with a certain ability to read and source and information. But the thing that we are missing actually in religious education, where they are trying to tell you how to deal with God. And I have been telling you, you deal correctly with humans, both Muslims and non-Muslim, then God will be loving you. Okay, but here it's the other, you deal directly with God. So a lot of things about God. Okay, and very little is about what they call ukhuwah, brotherhood between men, but also between Muslim, but also empathy, compassion, helping others. This actually is the the key of religion. But here, no, dying for your religion, paying a lot of money for pilgrimage, praying until a lot of times so that God will be pleased with you. These are emphasized. Okay, I'm not belittling them, but I'm just saying that the key to what is good religion, which is not taught, all right, is to be good to others. Why did Prophet Muhammad was respected? Because he was a good man. He was a good man. Not that he's staying in a cave and all the time. Once he received the revelation, he never visited the cave, as far as I understand it. Okay, his whole idea is about man. Okay, helping there were a lot of people, the slaves, and then burying the children, and how do you treat women. There was a lot of social issues that he had to deal with. Okay, and that was the revolution. Okay, but when we are taught about our relationship with God. That comes so much to the point of I think when I was learning in school, then of course you just trust. But then when I studied, read, thought, and also practiced, then I knew that it is no longer there. That means you have to revamp the pengajian Islam and also look at this moral study. I've never really read the books on moral studies. Okay, I think it's supposed to bring out character, but how do you do that? And actually, how do you do it in theory? but then there is no practice. And what are the practical ways? And also, who are these teachers? You know, this moral studies and this education, let's say the pengajian Islam, who is teaching it? Ustaz. And who's Ustaz? Who studies from this religion? And they never really were part of a bigger community. They were never really part of those who actually have done some work to help others and things like that. They're just people who learn about religion from some schools and institute and be with their own people, and then they come and they teach and they isolate the Muslim from others. And then this moral, who are these people teaching moral? They're supposed to be philosophers.
So, Professor Tajuddin, I'm interested in your answers about the way Islamic education and moral education are being taught in schools. Maybe can you would you mind elaborating on that a little bit? Do you think that Islamic education and moral education should be reformed in schools? And do you think that stars, for example, should be replaced with teachers of higher qualification, like Islamic scholars or those of uh, higher qualification, like people who are teaching in university? What do you think about that? How should Islamic and moral education be reformed in schools, do you think?
Good question. Good question. Because we look at this subject as alamak, not really for kerja satu lah, you know. And then the parent, okay lah, as long as dia tak buat jahat, you know, sembayang, you know, because that's what Ustaz said, tak sembayang masuk neraka. Oh, okay, kalau you sembayang pun you boleh masuk neraka, come on. Okay, it doesn't depend on sembahyang, right? Okay, because sembahyang you just sembahyang action saja, tapi hati tak betul, what you think you're going to masuk, you know, jadi mufti, jadi ustaz, boleh masuk syurga? No, definitely you teach like that susah. So that is where in some universities, in Western universities, the person who teaches introduction to architecture to the first year is the professor. Okay, not this graduate from just graduating from university. No, it is the professor. Okay, because that is where you want to put the attitude of what architecture is in the larger context, right? So that's why when I start my class, I never start with hello students, my name is Professor Tajuddin. Okay, for this class we have 3 assignments. Okay, and we also have this lecture schedule and the percentage, but what the hell is that? Okay, I would just go in straight. The issue of our society and architecture, how architects have failed our society. Well, you know, that's how I begin. The next week, I'll tell them the assignments. Okay, first day I will bagi ceramah. Okay, so to motivate them. So I agree that people of more experience must be teaching the subject of and people with wider engagements. Okay, not just somebody who's you can have both lah. You have some young ones who has not much experience to mentor the older ones and the wiser ones. But they also need to be educated themselves. Okay, and the training side, for instance, they don't have much training in science, so they should be sent to some kursus pemahaman sains and agama. Okay, they are not really good at interacting with non-Muslim. They should be sent to some sort of kursus where they'll bring these people, plonk them in 1 week in a Chinese environment in Jalan Petaling or whatever, okay, or brickfields, okay, duduk situ, okay, interact, and this is your assignment, pergi sembang dengan makcik sana, okay, so we need to have that, and then this moral, I don't know anything about moral studies, okay. Right, so all I know is that don't learn from some of the politicians lah, okay, about morality, okay. So the point here is that serious attention must be paid to these two because they are now the anchors of society. I keep telling that. In order for society to work, it's not about science and maths and all this stupid stuff. It's not about geography, about how much we produce. No, these are number 3, number 4, number 5. The one is how you respect each other, how you be kind to one another, how all this will then relate back to your career as well as your place in society and how you have your family. Okay, but at the moment, this is agama, this as long as ada cukup. Okay, and the parents also don't know about this thing. That's why society has not changed. What is needed in our education system is a total revamp. Because the way that we've been learning, we got the internet. I use the computer all the time. I'll ask the computer some question and it'll answer. How many teachers are there in Malaysia? It says 400,000. Don't know where I get it, And how many students are there? 5 million. So I can say, if there are 500,000 teachers and there are 5 million, there should be 1:10. How come you get 1:45? Okay, so in my latest article, this is what I have written. Said, where are these teachers? Where are they in management? What are they managing? Why are they managing? Right? So why must we have district level education officers? For what? This is a bygone days, Taurus, where you have to control things and all that. Not very simple. Let's say a teacher wants to transfer, you just email the school that you want to go to. Do you have any kekosongan for an English teacher? Okay, there are probably berapa sekolah in that area kan, 20 school. Then email them. Okay, and then once this is okay, then you can just deal it like that. No, you have to go to the department, a middle, things like that. So I told the story when my daughter had to transfer from Tollcross School in Scotland to Clovenstone School because we moved our apartment there. And I asked the teacher, where is the department office, the education office? Teacher said, no need, sir. All you have to do is take your child to where you want her to go to school. Is that all? Yeah. So I took my daughter to the school, Clovenstone, where I met the head teacher. Said, my daughter wants to go to school here. Oh, fine. You just fill in this form. Yeah, but what about all her work and all her files about it? It's okay, don't worry. He'll come. So the school will send all her files, which is the folder which her progress of work that they don't have report cards. Okay, they have folders of work. All right, so then that will follow. It's simple thing is just sending it over there. Okay, so what do you need the Department of Education for? Right, so this is the thing. So that's why we need to look at the number one, the content of this pengajian Islam, and also, I don't know, as I said, moral studies. And we need some very senior people to not only teach students, but also teach the teachers. Okay, and they need to be retrained for that by using all these cases of bullying. Well, I'm sure they don't use any case because it's never been published.
Yeah.
It's not published as part of the teacher training. Okay, I would challenge you now. You go and get the lecturers who are training teachers in the moral studies. Do they put all those cases in? No. Okay. So I would, if I were at the top, I would call all those trainers, all those lecturers. I'm going to look at their curriculum, and then I'm going to ask, where are the recent case studies on such things? All right. But first of all, are these people qualified to teach moral studies or not? That's another thing. Yeah.
All right. I think we should go back to the issue of bullies. And earlier we mentioned about the education minister. So the next question is going to cause a lot of uproar. I'm not sure what your answers will be for this one. And I might be mistaken about this, but cases like, bullies, rape, murders, sexual assault did not occur as extensively under previous education minister. And over the past several months, we have seen how members of the public blame the education minister for all these problems. And time and again, we have seen public comments across all social media platforms calling for the education minister to step down. And what this indicates is that many members of the public have lost confidence, have lost trust in the education minister. So my question to you, Professor Tajuddin, is do you think that the education minister should resign? What do you have to say about this?
Well, those who call for her resignation, I don't understand how they think about what is the role of a minister actually. Okay, and what is the role of the politician with the civil servant? As I said, if you were to say that a minister spends 3 years, 4 years trying to learn the ropes about education and all that, and as I said just now, that the civil servant have spent more time. Okay, why is the gun set to the minister? Why is it that it's not set to the director or general of education? Kenapa tak call him or her to be accountable? Why the minister? Why? Because of two things. Number one, it is played up by opposition politician. Okay, and then this opposition politician, of course, they want to make the other party look bad, right? So they train their guns to the minister. And then we have other people who get on the bandwagon because they're too lazy to think. Okay, they're lazy to think about who actually should be responsible. Do you know who should be responsible? They themselves. You know, those who say you resign because you didn't do a good job. What did you do with your children? Huh? What did you do with your children? Okay, so you need to also reflect and look upon yourself. Calling people to resign here and resign that the only person who should call to be resigned is the prime minister. The prime minister would know if Fadhlina is not doing her job. The prime minister would know that she's trying her level best, trying to deal. You know, which is the biggest ministry? The education. That's why in Lebih Masa podcast, Nick Nasby asked, if you were the elected Minister of Education, what would you do? I said to him, no, I don't want to be that minister. I want to be Minister of Higher Education. Because this Minister of Education, the ministry itself is a big, what they call swamp. Okay, anywhere you go, you sink. Okay, because it's got 500,000 teachers. Okay, and in charge of 10,000 schools. It's already a dinosaur. Okay, it's a dinosaur, right? And I was one time thinking that why can't we just let the state handle and we shouldn't have any federal situation. But this is a political matter. People want to influence teachers and things like that in politics. So it becomes a big dinosaur. Hardly anything can be done. You want to change a big dinosaur, a big ship, you know how long it takes. By the time you try to get it changed, you are already the next election. Okay, it's just too big. It's just too big. Okay, and I think golput lah siapa yang you nak letak dekat situ. Alright, now unless you have a powerful person like Mahathir one time where he held everything, okay, then he could say change this English overnight. Here you try to do that, and, you get change first. Okay, so I think people who are doing this are not intelligent at all. Okay, they are just following vindictive people who's just trying to make issue. Now, I'm not trying to defend them. Whoever you put there, siapa you nak letak? Okay, they have to be in front of 500,000 teachers and all this apa nama civil servant. It is not an easy task. Okay, so for me, I said we have to train our guns at the civil servant. Okay, and the civil servant need to answer to us. Okay lah, the minister as a politician also need to answer to us in a sense of our what they call professional question. Don't start the question with you are at fault and things like that. I mean, the person who starts saying you are at fault, he or she is the first person that cannot do the job. Percayalah saya. Okay, because the person who knows how to do the job will know how difficult it is. And therefore will never be easy to say, you have failed, you dapat D- or whatever, things like that. Okay, remember that, class. The person who says you do not know how to do the job, that is the first person who cannot do the job. Right? So itu adalah arrogance in its biggest form. Okay, so I think the issue here is about doing things and all that. It's about both the politician and the civil servant, because if the politician wants something and the civil servant doesn't want that thing, it's not going to work, you know. If you watch Yes Minister, Yes Prime Minister, that's how civil servant doesn't want change. They want to have their cushy life and put the blame on the politician. That's how the civil servants work. All right, so they are the ones that have all this glorious thing and all their whatever, you know. I sometimes hear guru besar punya having trips to overseas and things like that. Yeah, their toilet is not, you know, is broken and it's not being fixed. Okay, now is the minister at fault for that? Now, minister who wants corruption, yes lah. What are you trying to tell me that Fadhlina is taking corruption? There's no report. Okay, there's no report. Okay, so who do you want? Somebody very strong who's taking corruption, right? So be careful what you ask for. You might get it, you know. So this is where I think we need to have something that is a bit more balanced. Okay, and I especially like to hear the philosophy. And if you listen to the latest statement by the Director General, also I'm not very confident. Okay, and this is the Director General of Education. I dengar apa cakap, apa jenis cakap ni. Okay, this kind of thing. Jadi ketua. Okay, so jadi you can see the quality of the civil servant at the top, and if they are not good, then the teachers, they are at the mercy of these people. Okay, so we have this feudalistic hierarchy where good teachers are drowned by bad teachers who knows how to go up the ladder of administration and become Director General. I think most probably the Director General within the last few decades are the worst. Okay, they are the worst teachers. But before that, we had great Director General because they were the best teachers. Once upon a time, the best went up. Now the worst go up. Just look at our politician now. Okay, the most popular are the worst. Why you just cry, you know, racism and then religious extremism. This is the loudest. This is the most popular, most likely to become prime minister. Okay, and who did that? Us. Why? Because we follow populism and are too lazy to use our brain and our heart. A lot of comments saying, "Oh, the victim must be this, must be that, cannot take SPM and all that." What has it got to do? Okay, so they shoot their mouth before they know what they're saying. This is also the problem of this digital social media. You don't know anything, and all you do is you have this emotion, and then you have the computer screen, and then you have some people saying the same thing, and then you think it's already validated for you to just go out and write this open letter to Anwar Ibrahim. We want minister to resign. We want this, we want that. Come on lah. Orang yang tulis tu yang paling tak reti sekali. Okay.
But Professor Tajuddin, just to be fair, do you think it would be wrong? Do you think it would be wrong for the Prime Minister to change the Education Minister, considering that many people, it seems that many people have lost their confidence in the Education Minister?
Okay, when we look at the issue of Tun Dr. Mahathir and Mazli Malik at one time, so-called people have lost confidence in him. Okay, but actually I had full confidence in him. I think he wanted to do a lot of things. It's just that people say he stepped on the wrong shoes because he wanted to do good things about the corruption. And it happened to be what people say of this group that belongs to, you know, another politician. And that is why he was taken out, not because he was not a good minister. And the other thing is that there's so many, you know, the media plays up this black shoes business, plays up about his swimming pool idea. All those are good ideas, there's no problem, but they play it up. And media, I'm sorry to say, even though I use the media, but they also want to get sensationalism. You know, they play up these things very much. And again, I keep saying that the ministers now must have their own cyber troopers. Okay, not to do bad, but to explain things and to make what are the good things that is being done. If not, we are easily drowned by populism. What you have just said is just populism. I'm not impressed with people wanting this, wanting that. Cuba tengok siapa yang nak want tu. You name me those people yang kata so many. Apa dia punya background for them to say that? Right? What is their background? You want to call Professor Tajuddin Kangkong? Sure. What's your background? Do you have a 120-page CV of publication? Tak ada. 5 page saja. Terus saya cakap lah. Kan? Alright? Ini cakap, ini kata macam ni, you sendiri pun, orang kata apa, ukur baju di badan sendiri dululah. But then yang you pergi listen to somebody else, siapa suruh? Okay, why are you doing that? Right? So next time when you say things like popular people, many, if the person yang cakap tu is somebody from a what we call both education background and also someone who has a political experience, and they give a very clear analysis and also perception, not following then number one, they can write a private letter, and they can also write an article that is a very balanced thing that concludes to say that it should be time to replace the minister, and that's fine. Okay, so check who's saying this thing. Alright, if it is the opposition people, tengok ni siapa ni? Ada pengalaman tak? In their own state pun, what are they doing? Yeah, and what are their ideas if they are going to complain this and complain that? So don't go on populism just to justify things.
So, Professor Tajuddin, let's go back to the issue of bullying because it's a big issue now nationwide. Let's say the education minister is listening. Let's say Prime Minister is listening to this interview right now. So, if you are given an absolute authority at this moment, since you have both the academic background, also the political background, what are the particular changes you would make to ensure that schools are a much safer place? What recommendations would you give to the education minister? Now, I'd also like to hear your thoughts on the issue of installation of CCTV. I think it's a brilliant idea, but I think we both can agree that it's not an effective method to address problems because CCTV are merely tools, right, for monitoring and recording. It does not address the root cause of the problem. And there had also been a suggestion to set up a task force in schools. That's how critical the situation is right now. So since you have both political and education background, what recommendations would you give to address this issue? How would you do it? What changes would you make? What are the particular changes you would make to ensure that schools are a safe place for learning?
Well, firstly, we need to look at the attitude of teachers towards education in the sense that the first question is that who are the students? The students are supposed to be your children. Okay, if they treat students like, no, if you treat students like, okay, these are just students who I have to teach and all that sort of thing, then that is the wrong attitude. Okay, in Islam, if a teacher is the biggest contributor to the idea of spirituality, because what they teach, then if the student act on and they get the rewards, and also the investment goes very widely. So a teacher is a person who is supposed to treat the student as their children. Now, if you have your children running around, you definitely be concerned. If it's not your children, you couldn't care 2 cents. Okay, so that is one of the things that if somebody were to hire and interview a teacher, somehow you need to have that, which is the attitude of the teacher. Number 2, you need to ensure that you have the proper student ratio. And according to the numbers, if you go and ask the computer, you could actually get a very nice number of ratio. You cannot have a teacher teaching 45 students like my wife did. You cannot have that. Because once you have 20 students, like, do you know why a lot of this bullying and thing doesn't occur in private school? Because the ratio is just one is, well, I have two children being teachers, 10 students, 15 students, right? Okay, and they know every time they get angry about this, I say, remember, this student are paying your salary. I said that to my children, without them, you won't have a salary. Okay, so you see the attitude there. Here, you ajar tak ajar, you ajar 45 ke 20, gaji sama lah. Okay, this kind of attitude. But we do need to bring it down to 1:20, and I wrote an article challenging the ministry and asking them why, when you have, once upon a time, you have 5 million students with 500,000 teachers. Now I saw you only have 2.5 million because of lower demography of birth rate, and also people not wanting to send to public school. It's gotten significantly less. But why are there still one is to 45 in urban school? You have to split the class. Some say that, oh, we don't have any more classes now. You can actually, now they have shipping containers that can actually become houses and offices and even classroom. One of my children, when I sent them to private school, the school had this shipping container that is aircon, and that became the classroom. You don't have to build a school with all this concrete and all the ada padang bola. You can still add on to the school, but you cannot have more than 1:20 ratio. If 1:20 ratio, then you can actually check the emotions of the students and all that. But above that, how are you going to actually sense that? Okay. And then we really need to look at the workload of the teachers, all right, and their KPI. If the KPI, the teacher, no, everyone must have mathematics A 30%. You're giving these damn stupid numbers lah. Kenapa? One time, my wife and I, we teach English in a certain way in a tuition class, and then we use it for her students in school. Now, all her students fail English, okay? And she was given the bad class and all that. Then we institute this learning of what we call the link book. You do reading and all that, and it has been proven very good for our tuition class. And the student began to be able to read, and then go to the library and then begin reading. And then when the head teacher asked my wife explained that, oh, very good, very good, very good. So how many is going to pass the English? Not going to pass yet. They just now love to learn English at the moment. But her concern is that, is this going to, improve the percentage? If you want to know, Ras, the appointment of managers at universities is all about numbers. It's all about achieving numbers. Now, you ask for numbers, you will get numbers one way or another, like English. I want English good. Okay, bocorkan question. Once upon a time, my wife was examining SPM English, okay? She showed me 3 essays, exactly the same. But the numbers of the student, they are sitting far apart. They're not next to each other. Why are 3 students sitting way away from exactly word per word the essay? Because the soalan dibocorkan. And the teacher helped them to write. And then all they do is memorize. Okay? And therefore, the teacher get the percentage wanted by the head teacher, and the ministry pun seronok. She is having improved. Somebody will naik pangkat. Okay? So this is you put KPI like that, then other things doesn't matter. The so-called character lah, apalah, it doesn't matter because of the KPI. Okay, so your KPI must be a more holistic KPI of the person. What is education in the first place? It's about to learn to read, to write, okay, but more importantly, a good person. What is a good person? Nobody cares, because the good student is the one that got all these A's. And then I said, don't celebrate when sekolah menengah asrama penuh get 100%. Don't go and probably, oh, semua 100 sekolah dapat penuh. What is this? Okay, you're celebrating academic, and then you wonder what happened to all this thing. The same sekolah menengah asrama are the one yang paling banyak bullying. Kan? The one that score A tu, by rote learning or by pattern, whatever lah. I've met this kind of people also. Why? Because the KPI.
Okay, so Professor Tajuddin, we have come towards the end of our interview, but perhaps I should ask my final question. We have addressed the issue of safety and security in schools. Perhaps I should ask you about what is desperately needed in the school environment today in terms of education wise. What is missing, do you think? As a professor, what can you recommend to the education minister to ensure that academic is being effectively executed and that students have that motivation, the desire to learn, to instill that sense of curiosity? What is missing?
If you could actually remove all those present leadership in the civil servant, okay, the top 3 tiers, director general and all this, okay, and then you ask them to retire early or give them some jobs elsewhere, then you should interview people, not just civil servant, outside people, to come and to look at those who are going to lead on education as a whole. Okay. And then you should also put in a team to actually do this curriculum, because you want to propose change, they're going to be a lot of reaction. Okay. But then there's no stopping you to actually have a group of people to go and brainstorm. Maybe this is the future. And with the right politics, you could actually implement that. Okay. So this should be done on one side. And the other one is to actually bring in managers, maybe from overseas. What's wrong with having these other people? Okay, they have the experience of good school. We have the money, of course we cannot match their pay and things like that, but we could do something about other perks, like having housing, having a very nice car, and all that sort of thing. We could do that. And once upon a time, a lot of our head teachers were Masaleh, people from Western, and they know what education is all about, because they're the one who started it anyway. Yeah? They had their 100 years of experience in education, and they gave it to us. Okay, so now we must have not only Malaysian to lead, but Melayu. Susah lah macam tu. Okay, why don't you bring in the brains? You've got the certain budget, and maybe you should also bring in some people to be the head teachers, okay, or from other schools. Now, maybe the language may be a barrier, but I don't think everybody can speak English. Most of the teachers can speak English, right? So we could do that very quickly, because to find a good teacher from the pool that has already been coming out. I mean, a good teacher, as we say, the one that can think differently and have a different idea of what education is all about. How can you find from the same pool? Macam mana nak buat? Okay, so you should be looking at now. If you put it a Chinese Malaysian, it's going to have problem with all this race and things like that, right? So that's why I'm not saying that the Mak Saleh knows better. I'm just looking at the politics. Number one, you want to look for a Malay teacher to be the leader, kan? Okay, and these Malay teachers come from the same socio-political, religio mindset yang ada. Nothing will change. You want to put a Chinese, good luck. Okay, and nobody's going to accept. Maybe you should put someone from Sabah. Sabah pun problem. Okay, you can look. Saya pun tengok Sabah pun, probably elect the same people who were involved in the corruption. Okay, so so where are you going to look? Okay, so jadi get people, give them the certain power, all right, a real power to actually make the change, and then have your curriculum design, redesigning all these things, taking into consideration of the political, it's not just about doing this, it's also the strategy to put things out, okay? And I never read all this blueprint of education, pure nonsense, you know, whatever the government put out, education masa depan for schools, education masa depan for university, semua tak boleh pakai. Okay, because there's not a single good philosophy there at all. It doesn't start with that. It always start with what's happening in technology. I mean, cut and paste here and there. There's no real philosophy that is worth in any of this blueprint. And there was an article that I gave you, and one teacher, former teacher, said, "Oh, this blueprint toilet pun tak betul, student pun 46 orang. What the hell are they talking about?" Okay, so jadi I say go back to you must have this ratio, and I want them to prove to me that you cannot have this ratio. Okay, but the mathematics shows that you could actually have it even better. But then why is it that you cannot have this ratio? Because it all starts with that. Kalau you burden the teachers, you nak buat apa? You bagus pun, you will cave in. Not only that, you're trying to do well, then people will ask, Mr. Razsyarizzand, why is it your teachers, students failing in English and tanya this kind of question. Okay, even though you've done good projects for them to be good person, you're buddy with them, and all this, they love each other, they are kenal each other, they have Hari Raya and Deepavali at everybody's house. Nobody looks at that. They look at, okay, mathematics, is it with the average? Always with the average. In UK schools, I ask, what is my children's punya position in class? We don't do that, sir. We don't rate according to her number in class. Okay, then what is the average education? They don't do that. This is your child, this is the folder, this is your work. Okay, this is the progress. One student at a time. One student unique in themselves. Okay, here we believe in average. And the tragedy of 100,000 students can't even read after standard 1, standard 2, we have. My gardener has children standard 2, standard 3, tak boleh baca. My wife saw it. Now my wife is teaching them. So I think this is what we need to do. And of course, anybody who becomes Minister of Education, if you don't have the background in education, and it's always a challenge. But as far as I understand it, is that if you can have a good support, which is the definitely has to be the civil servant. Okay, so don't just target the minister and go call the civil servant, ketua sini, ketua sana. Let's have a forum and listen to what they say. Why don't you get your friend to call the Director General of Education? Then let's listen to what he has to say, and you can see what the rod is. Okay, rod is not the minister.
Okay, so thank you so much, Professor Tajuddin. I believe we have gone over an hour. Thank you so much for having me for the second time. I hope we are going to have many more interviews in the future. I truly enjoyed this interview.
Hi, everybody. If you would like to own my book and have my signature as well as a personal note from me, please follow the instruction. Thank you.